one day I hadn't eaten anything all day, and I went to my bank ATM to get money to eat fast food. Terrible.
Hmm.
But I hadn't eaten anything, and I couldn't get any money out. So I had to use my phone to connect to my bank to figure out how come I couldn't get money out. And it just dawned on me, why don't I use this for pills at home?
Yep.
Because that way I can make sure only the prescription holder has access to pills at only the prescribed dose and time. So in thinking like a person who is has opioid use disorder, I can make that happen.
Hmm.
And I can destroy the tablets in the dispenser itself immediately or at the end of 30 days. So no one else in the household can get access and no one else can accidentally overdose and die.
Welcome to the Real Estate Mogul MD podcast. Thanks for tuning in and taking control of your financial future. This is a show where we not only motivate and inspire, we give you actionable real-world experience to help you live life by design. You'll hear journeys and stories from other physicians, investors, coaches, consultants, and entrepreneurs. And now, here's your host, Brett Riggins. Today's guest, man, I don't even know where to start. Not knowing those conversations, I just absolutely love it. Today's guest is practiced anesthesia, interventional, chronic pain management, and addiction medicine for 31 plus years. He's a serial entrepreneur. And I love about this piece is what he's investing his time in, what products he's developing. There's something called the iPill dispenser. I absolutely love the idea of this thing. And we all have these stack of experiences that we're able to put together. And in the entrepreneur world, when we lock that passion with our unique set of experiences, there's breakthroughs. This iPill dispenser, boy, with the experience of opioid medications, opioid use disorder, and overdose death, how this is attacking that and implementing technology and this medical device. But that's beyond the parts of this show. But it enables us to talk about the real estate first. And along the way, today's guest started off as a licensed general contractor, fixing homes to not flip them, but to hold them. And now we talk a little bit about just acquired a 16 unit. But how all does this work with being an entrepreneur and an investor and a physician? Well, what a story to tell, what a conversation. And on top of that, the thing that makes it greater than everything else is the focus of doing things beyond yourself, helping, giving back, creating a platform that allows us to pay it forward. Everybody, please welcome John Sue to the show.
Hey, Brett, thank you very much for having me. Great to be here.
Yeah, awesome. And we talked a little bit before. You're coming to us from California. How is the weather in California here in the middle of October?
Well, it's been hot lately, but today it's actually overcast and cold. It's really quite different than what I'm used to.
Interesting. Yeah, a little chilly here as well too. I got to get a sweatshirt on myself, but hey, can't not complain. The sun is shining, my lights come on, and the toilet's flush every time I move that little lever down. So I'm pretty happy these days. Well, here let's jump into this right away, John. Tell us a little bit about you, your medical background, and where you're at today.
So I'm an anesthesiologist, chronic pain management interventionalist, and a addiction medicine physician. So been in the practice for 31 years. And at the same time that I did my medical practices, I was doing my medical practice. I was doing a real estate, uh, um, accumulating real estate. And also I started a medical device company and a pharmaceutical company as well.
Wow. Well, that's a lot. How did you manage putting all of that together at the same time? Did you bump into burnout along the way?
Well, actually, it's interesting you asked that. Um, Burnout, I initially treated by going to do work on the houses because there is something cathartic about laying tile, about changing faucets, laying pipe, doing electrical work, doing hardscape and softscape. It actually is so different. Takes the stress off of being a doctor to do something that I really sort of enjoy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then, the real estate properties, they kind of work on their own. And so I needed something else to do. And so I started this medical device and this pharmaceutical to deal with opioid use disorder. That's one of my biggest passions right now. Rather than helping 5 or 6 people a day in anesthesia, I'm really trying to help hopefully millions of people.
Yeah. That's very, very interesting. So almost like an entrepreneur from the start, fixing these houses, not to flip them, but to hold them. We'll jump into that in a minute, but just briefly into the medical device piece, paired alongside of that opioid, just catastrophe that happens when people get addicted to painkillers, right? And these opioids. Tell us a little bit about the company that you started with this device, and I believe it's iPill. Is that correct, John?
That's correct. iPill is a hardware software communication company. It's a mechatronic company. So essentially, the problem is 75% of people do not take their prescribed medicines correctly. And that causes 125,000 deaths per year at $290 billion in additional costs.
Wow.
When you add opioids to that, it's $1.5 trillion a year, and about 100,000 deaths occur from overdoses per year. And of those opioid overdose deaths, 88% are from fentanyl or fentanyl derivatives, which are illicit at this point, and also they're from illicit opioids, not really from prescribed opioids.
Mm-hmm. Wow. And this is very interesting, the mechanism itself and how the platforms communicate to mitigate the causes for all of those tragic numbers you just mentioned there. And I went on there, you shared this cool explainer video on how this works, and it really puts all the pieces in place. So I wanted to make sure that the listeners are able to see this. It's www.ipilldispenser.com, IPILLDISPENSER.com, to really see this. This is a very cool thing outside of where this show kind of runs into. But the idea of an entrepreneur, I want to touch on that and pair it into the real estate along the way, because we're always juggling this idea. And I see it a lot in medicine where I've got this unique set of experiences, John, that allows me to then implement and create product that's not out there. It's based off of, for your particular instance, the pain medicine, the addiction, the long-term effects of this, the long-term dealing with pain, and now you've created the solution. So at what point do you, or how do you know where to invest your time or your money along this journey?
For real estate, I got really lucky. So it started off with me using real estate as a hobby to release the stress from being a doctor. Well, I kept the houses because, I noticed that passive income flow is how most people retire comfortably. And so I was always thinking about retirement. And the real estate provides a large amount of passive income flows, a large amount of deductions, and really it's helped support these two companies. I put $1 million into my own retirement money into iPill and $1 million into Kiwi Pharma. So the way I spend my time is by whatever needs to be done. I actually feel like a fireman because I'm always putting fires out.
Yeah.
So that's what I do. And, it's interesting because, one of the easiest things I do in my job is to write a prescription. The most difficult part is determining whether a patient takes a prescribed medication as directed or not.
Mm-hmm.
So one day I hadn't eaten anything all day, and I went to my bank ATM to get money to eat fast food. Terrible.
Mm-hmm.
But I hadn't eaten anything, and I couldn't get any money out. So I had to use my phone to connect to my bank to figure out how come I couldn't get money out. And it just dawned on me, why don't I use this for pills at home?
Yep.
Because that way I can make sure only the prescription holder has access to pills at only the prescribed dose and time. So in thinking like a person who is has opioid use disorder, I can make that happen. And I can destroy the tablets in the dispenser itself immediately or at the end of 30 days. So no one else in the household can get access and no one else can accidentally overdose and die.
Yeah, that's very, very interesting. And this piece with these new companies, coming from the real estate background of, again, this is single family that you launched into, I believe, but moving now into the business, you've got these two businesses. Does any of that, and do any of the new businesses involve real estate?
No. And I'll tell you something kind of funny, but being a doctor, I thought I was really smart. Going into business, I found out very quickly I'm really not that smart. I had to learn about business, financial models, TAM, SAM, SOM. I had to learn about regulatory. I had to learn about IP protection or patents. I had to learn about FDA, DEA, anything you can imagine that associates with opioids. I had to learn.
Wow. Wow. You said TAM, SAM, SOM. What is that?
Oh, it's I didn't go to business school, but the people who I was trying to get to invest in the company, they would always ask me, what's the total addressable market?
Mm,
How big is your market that you're selling into? And
right.
then how big is your the addressable market and how big is the attainable market? So,
Interesting.
that's how I had to learn all that stuff. And the beauty of the internet is not for me is to learn different topics not associated with the medical field.
Yeah, absolutely. This idea that you mentioned about real estate being relaxing, the idea of working on real estate being relaxing, I share the same thing. And I think for me, John, it's one of those things, if I can launch into a task where it doesn't drain my brain to do it, it's relaxing. Yes, it's manual labor, but it's so relaxing. Like for me, anymore these days, I do a lot of, like even just blowing the yard, blowing, leaves out of the yard or something. If I can put the earbuds in and put my ear protection on over that, and I can set in for about 20 or 30 minutes on something, it's so relaxing.
It is, and this past weekend, I had some railroad ties going up a steep slope in my backyard. So I took out the railroad ties, brought out the jackhammer to jackhammer the railroad ties, and then I dropped in sand and then rocks and then dropped colored cinder block and then put a cap on top of it so that I could build some steps up. And laying concrete. Sorry, you're mixing concrete. You're dropping rebar, putting rebar through and around. To me, it was, there's a lot of stress in my life. When I'm doing other things, it changes my mindset.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I like it a lot. And just being able to, and it's not really like the mindless pieces, because especially just working through the logistics of planning and putting those pieces together, there is definitely thought that goes into it, but it's a different kind of thought that comes into that manual labor piece, as opposed to something a lot of us do as more mental labor than manual labor for the most part. When was the last time that you invested in real estate?
Well, I think I bought something recently. I bought a 16-unit apartment complex.
Mm-hmm.
And so, right now in LA with COVID, with the rent control, the unit prices of real estate have dropped from about 400,000 to 600,000 down to 200,000 per unit. And the rent is so high. So your ROI, cash on cash return, is actually better. So, again, I took some of my retirement IRA money out and just bought a 16 unit.
Nice. And the idea of staying in California for you with those types of rent situations, I would have to say that California in general is not a landlord-friendly state. What is it that drives you to keep investing in California, in LA, as opposed to going to other markets?
Well, it's part of, I can probably make a better return in other markets, but then, the hassle of going out there to look at it, to take care of it is a problem. I can hire someone, but in California, it's near me. If there's something that needs to be changed, like I can change a toilet in about 30 minutes,
Mm-hmm.
right? Change a faucet, do the angle, do an angle valve in about 45 minutes. Pull off the sleeve with that little tool.
Yeah.
It's stuff that I can do that I like doing. So that's
self-manage. You are self-managing those 16 units.
Not all the time, but I do manage a
Mm-hmm.
fair number. I mean, between San Francisco, San Diego, Riverside, LA, Orange County, I have people that work for me, but I do manage quite a number of them. In fact, one of my good friends who is also a doctor, he saw a toilet in my car after we were playing golf. And he said, "What are you doing? Are you changing a toilet in your house?" "No, I'm changing a toilet in a rental house."
Yeah.
And he would say, "Why are you doing such a thing? Because you can just hire someone to do it." Well, it's also cathartic. I work maybe 100 hours a week in medicine, and you're tired. But if you just go home and go to sleep, it's the same day and the same stuff the next day.
Mm-hmm.
And you put a toilet in, it's something different. It changes my mindset. It changes the rhythm of my day.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's probably not too many anesthesiologists who can install a toilet.
Well, yeah, but I had a contractor's license a long, long time ago. So I'm not a contractor at all by any means, and I'm not really that good at doing things. But the whole fun of things in life for me is figuring out a problem. Recognize the problem and figuring out a solution. So, what keeps me young is I'm learning every single day.
Yeah, yeah. That's awesome. And this, like, say this 16 units, probably just a little bit different than the single families that you have. And again, this is area related, investor specific type stuff. But what to you is a decent return, a cash on cash return when you're investing in, say, that multifamily solution? So you are, there is no syndication. This is straight active investing. What types of returns are you looking at that, hey, this makes sense for me?
I'll give you the best example that I did. Because I like going around colleges. So UC Merced was new, and the houses up there were between 60 to 80,000 per house, and it's right around a college. And many people in that area are of low income. So I was doing Section 8s. Mm-hmm. Section 8 is low income housing. For a 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom house that was being sold for $80,000. This is a while ago.
Yeah.
Section 8 was paying me $1,440 a month.
Wow.
And that makes your return on investment close to like 14. So that essentially means you're getting 14% interest. Because right now most people are getting 5. You put money in like a Fidelity bond fund or Fidelity government reserve fund, it's like 5.15%. Better than putting in the bank, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But right now a return on investment around 5 is reasonable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that first scenario there, and that 80,000 again, that was probably a long time ago. But fatting art, you can go to different markets still today and do something similar. But I'm sure a lot of people hear this rent ratio, 1% rent ratio thing. You take the gross monthly income divided by your all-in or your property value. And in that scenario, I just took 1,400 divided by 80,000. That put it at a 1.75 percent rent ratio. And that's almost doubling that 1% rule. So that's a great return on that. Probably not going to see anything close to that on that 16 unit though, right?
No, the 16 unit, I'm getting probably, if you if you do your calculations that way, I'm probably getting 0.6
Mm-hmm.
because, at this point, the only thing I really need is passive income flow.
Yeah.
Because how I support the two companies, that's what I live on. And, it's how I'm passing on how hard I work and what I have onto the next generation, either in a dynasty trust or what's called a intentional guarantor defective trust. Or, I used to have what's called a guarantee residual annuity trust. That allows me to take money out and live while the property continues to increase in value while I'm living. So, these vehicles allow me to actually live and appreciate my estate.
Yeah. I've spoken with a few other investors that still invest actively in, like, say, in California, higher price point markets. And a lot of what they look at are the appreciation as opposed to the cash flow. So it's interesting that, for you, it doesn't sound like it's a leverage scenario. You've got the capital that's going into these, and you are using the cash flow as opposed to the appreciation.
Yeah, like I said, I'm really different than most people. Being Asian, I don't like debt. So I don't like any debt. Everything is paid for. Everything is, there's no mortgages on anything I own. I've just been really lucky. I played the interest rates. When I started doing this, the interest rate on the first house that I bought was 12%.
Yeah.
But again, when I bought those places in Merced, it was a 2008 at the downturn. So I got really lucky.
Yeah. Yep. Right time, right place, right action, right person. The willingness to install a toilet, doing what you do. There's just something different about you, John. You're right. You are different. But I can appreciate that, man. I appreciate setting into a task and how it just relaxes my mind. But the difference is, though, too, being in a situation because you want to be as opposed to that you need to be. So just think about if you're in a situation where you own these houses and the only way that you could even keep your head above water was doing all of this stuff. And it was, an additional 20 hours a week on top of your medical career, it would probably be a little more of a pain in the butt for you. But since you are so different, you would probably still enjoy that, right, John?
I would. And I have to tell you, I have a great wife. I really do. We make a great team because she helps in all these things too. And she loves doing it.
Yeah.
And the funniest story is one day we have a house near us that we went to go clean. And, I'm dressed in not doctor attire, but just like the weekend. And we were cleaning. A real estate agent came in and said, wow, is this house going to go up for rent? And we said, yeah, it's going to go up for rent. And she said, wow, the house is really clean. I would love to hire you to clean the other houses. My wife and I, things happen. Things happen to me that make me really look on life and make me happy. And one of the things that I kind of am doing now is, I got baptized in the River Jordan in Israel.
Oh, wow.
2018. So I'm trying to push forward, play it forward. I'm trying to help people. In fact, my wife has something in another area, and what we want to do is build a set of apartments for people who have housing challenged issues, and then we want to have a training program to have people learn how to have a skill to get a job. I mean, I think that's what we're meant to do in life now, to help people, to push forward and help people who are less fortunate.
I love that. You said housing challenge. What do you mean by that?
Homeless.
Homeless. Interesting.
So many homeless people, even people with opioid use, I'm trying to be politically correct. Addiction is called opioid use disorder in the proper terms. Homelessness is housing challenge. So,
never heard that.
We're trying to help as many people as we can. My wife, we make
Very interesting. How about Section 8? Do you still do Section 8?
We do. Many people believe that people who have Section 8 are going to ruin the house. But, I haven't had that experience. And there's a great need for people to put up their homes for Section 8. Now, when I did it, the Section 8 made sense. The return on investment made sense, but not now. The average price of a house in California is nearing $1 million. And to get $1,400 a month in rent and put you at, 0.14 instead of 1%.
Yeah. Makes sense. And I bring that up because of the housing challenge, the homelessness idea, this voucher program that's out there. And my kind of like injection into this world, John, in the same way of, hey, I want to help. I don't want to just be part of the system. Obviously, as an investor, I want to provide the homes which allow the vouchers to be used. But at the same time, when I launch in this too, I've created a path where I can connect with people and understand, hey, what is this like? Because I was so shocked and some of the entitlement sense that I've gotten from some of the Section 8, and it's, in some places even called like housing choice voucher program, whatever the terms are, like how one person may be on Section 8 for like 10, 15, 18 years. And I'm just thinking to myself, how does that work? And how is that creating a platform for somebody to grow? So in this journey of, okay, now I want to, in connecting with voucher holders, I want to know, do they want change? Do they want to better themselves? Do they want to create a situation where they don't need to be on Section 8? Because in my perspective, Section 8, that assistance piece should just be that. It should be assistance to help move them on to the next part of their life, because how much more value can they bring to their families and others around them when they're not solely relying on a situation like this? So that idea of presenting opportunity for somebody, I actually just started calling it a path forward. And I don't know what that looks like, but maybe there's some room or integration in this idea that you're talking about with presenting a platform for people to grow, to move forward. And the first thing that pops in my mind for a Section 8 tenant would be, how do I be a good tenant? I mean, that's a good thing, because becoming a good tenant means you're showing care for your home, you're taking care of your property, you're making sure your finances are in place so that the bills can be paid. And that's like step one. And even in home owning, do you see a path forward to be able to help others in the same way?
Yeah, let me tell you a couple things. In Germany, welfare can only go 2 generations. So they're actually trying to imprint playing it forward within the generations, because it's really hard to be in California because costs are so high. But one of the things that I learned in doing some volunteer work, and my wife did some volunteer work as well. When you have a Section 8 location, and you just as a business owner, I kind of did the wrong thing. I did the wrong thing, actually. I put in cheap appliances, cheap countertops, put cheap toilets, right? I did everything cheaply, and Section 8 because I wanted the highest return on investment. Well, that gives that person who's being there the feeling that I'm not taking care of them. I'm being cheap. And that doesn't give them something to look forward to, something nice to look forward to. And that doesn't play forward. So rather than, using the cheapest materials now, I do put paintings up in the walls. I put curtains in now. I don't use the cheapest things. I use nicer things so that I show them what nice things are like. And I show them what things could be like in the future. And it's that small idea of helping people with an expectation that they could do better if they worked harder or did something or got, someone helped them. I think that's the most important thing that I'm trying to do. In fact, with these apartments, that's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, I love it. I love the idea. If there's any way that we could stay connected, and if any of the listeners want to stay connected with you, I know we've got the ipilldispenser.com, but this is kind of a little different. What's the best way that the listeners could connect with you?
Well, John at iPillDispenser.com is my email for that company. The website is www.ipilldispenser.com. One of the things that we're doing now with that is we're avoiding insurance.
Mm-hmm.
We want to reduce the fiscal responsibility of the patient because most of these patients who have opioid use disorder, they're not employed and they are housing challenged, and many have some disability of some other comorbidity. Mm-hmm. And so we're trying to reduce the financial responsibility of the patient. As an example, veterans, there's 208 clinics for pain and addiction in the Veterans Administration, and that treats 6,500 veterans, people who fight for us so we can sit here and talk. Mm-hmm. And there's 418,000 in the latest paper that got written that actually need treatment. And there's 44 veterans who commit suicide a day from either pain or mental health issues or opioid use disorder. So what we're trying to do is give these veterans a way to get treatment because there's a lot of barriers to treatment. So we actually mail the device with the medication for opioid use disorder to their homes. So they don't have to have the stigma of having to take the bus to get to the clinic or my clinic. That means that they don't have to spend an hour a day or 2 hours a day, and they can maintain a job. And then they get the medication at home, and they get telehealth. They can get a doctor or a counselor pretty close to immediate, so they can talk to someone right away. So their healthcare crisis can be averted, and they can be treated. So we're really trying to help people.
Yeah, that's huge. Those things, from the business perspective, it's instantly laying in, okay, those are costs, that's a cost, that's a cost. And it's like there's more to helping than, I guess, putting yourself in a position to where you can help people is the priority, because there takes so much where you have to eat in order to get to that place. But the insurance piece is huge. Insurance is a huge challenge, a huge problem. I hear it a lot, and I'm not a physician, John, and I get the wonderful chance to speak with amazing physicians like yourself. And I see this from the outside, from a business owner perspective, the challenges with it, not only inside the companies, but to hear you say that, even with the challenges it creates for the patient as well, too. You are definitely helping people. I love where this is going. I hope the listeners look you up at the ipilldispenser.com, learn out more about this, and even just spreading the word can be huge. I'm anxious to see, excited to see where the apartment place comes. Help me out with this word again. Challenge. Is it housing challenged?
Yes. Housing
challenge. So that situation, and overall, just helping others as much as possible, I think, is really, really important. So love to stay in touch with you through this process as well, too, see your growth. If there was one thing that you could go with the knowledge that you have now, John, whether it be in business, in real estate, in finance, just in life in general, if you could go back 15 years and set beside maybe a med student and they were on a similar path to you, maybe going into medicine, seeking to help people, what's something that you would tell that person 15 years ago?
I think that I would tell that person that, we're all going to die. It is kind of morbid. We're all dying. Every single day we're dying. But rather than focusing on me and my life, I want to focus on a legacy where I'm giving back to society. I'm giving back to my heirs something to help them go forward. Because many doctors feel entitled. They act entitled. Many people act entitled. Gen Z, Gen A, it just happens that way. It's the culture. But when you begin to think outside of yourself, I think that's when you give to people. So I think that I would tell that person to think of the legacy and not themselves. You're not working for yourself anymore. You're working for society.
Yeah.
You're working to improve mankind. Because I'm going to die, but hopefully what I do is going to live beyond me.
Yeah. That's amazing. And you had mentioned, being baptized earlier. And if you're helping us to something that's greater than you, it's a whole nother world, because then there are so many others out there doing that as well too. And putting those things together, thinking outside of yourself, is a great place to be. John, thank you so much for your time today. I've enjoyed our conversation. Just best wishes for you and your wife, for your companies, and for the apartment idea that you're thinking of there.
Thank you very much for having me. And I wish the best for everyone who's listening.
Amazing. And to the listeners out there, just like John said, wishing you the best, thanking you for your time, not only your time, but your attention. And if you've listened to the show and made it to the end a few times, I'm always grateful for your attention, because it's the attention that sets you apart from just going through the motions. And just like John said earlier, maybe it's a shift or change in the process to change things up, not necessarily having to maybe put in a toilet for yourself, but finding a way to just reset that, take you outside yourself and focus on doing something greater than yourself, thinking outside of yourself. This is the Real Estate Mogul, MD.